and welcome to the program. I am DEJI360. Nigeria has marked yet another milestone in its journey of independence. 61 years after gaining independence from Great Britain, it has been nothing short of eventful. The country has now had 22 years of uninterrupted democracy. It's also emerged as the largest economy on the African continent by GDP. A lot of positive things have happened in this country since 1960. Despite the progress, the country continues to struggle with several challenges ranging from economic to security, among others. And talking about security, perhaps with the exception of the country's civil war between 1967 to 1970, Nigeria has never faced any serious security challenge than the one it is currently dealing with at the moment. The Boko Haram insurgency has been going on now for over 10 years, and by the UN estimates, about 350,000 persons have been killed and millions more displaced as a result of the insurgency in the country's northeast. In the northwest of the country, the government is battling to contain banditry now and kidnappings, which have also resulted in many casualties. In the southeast of the country, the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, or IPOB for short, have continued to wage what seems like a low-scale insurgency as the group, which has been designated a terrorist organization, continues to press its case for secession. The same secession call still rends the air in the southwest of the country, where the so-called Yoruba nation says it wants out of Nigeria. To address insecurity, President Muhammadu Buhari in his Independence Day broadcast said he has approved for the Nigerian police force to recruit 10,000 police officers annually over the next 6 years. Now, if the police does that, which means in the next 6 years, we would have additional 60,000 police officers. And that, of course, would mean a lot. He also said the Nigerian military has recruited around 17,000 personnel in recent times to bolster their ranks and take the fight now to all the troubled spots in the country. On food security, President Buhari blamed the rising food prices on artificial shortages now created, according to him, by middlemen, and called for the rehabilitation of the National Food Reserve Agency. He also says he's refocusing the Nigerian civil service to world-class standard alongside his government's poverty eradication and unemployment plan. Let's now go ahead and dissect the President's Independence Day broadcast further. I'm now being joined on the program by two gentlemen. I have AJADI, who is a lawyer and political analyst, and I also have Professor Sadiq Abba, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration at the University of Abuja. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the program. Let me start with you, Prof. What do you make of the President's speech?
Hello. I think it is more or less the repetitions of previous speeches. The issues remain the same. The challenges keep on reoccurring, and the solutions are very far away from being gotten. Mr. President's speech encompasses almost everything that is troubling Nigeria today. He spoke much on the economy, the desire and the intention of his government to stabilize the economy. The economy is not doing well. The indicators of all the indicators are pointing to the fact that unemployment is very high, productivity is low, the growth rate of the economy is not encouraging. Though this has to do a lot with maybe the COVID-19 pandemic that dealt a deadly blow not only on Nigerian economy but global economy, and also the downward trend as far as the price of crude oil is concerned globally. So the President's speech captured about the nature and character of our national economy today. He spoke about the national security that is become part and parcel of our national lives today, because there is no single part of the country that is insecurity free. So he equally lamented the state of affairs of our national unity and cohesion, and call on Nigerians to love each other, to respect each other, and to build bridges rather than walls, to encourage national integration rather than disintegration. And most importantly, he celebrated Nigeria in '61 in various ways in his speech, most particularly the sustainability of democracy and democratic ideals and structures in Nigeria. He celebrated the unity of this country despite all limitations, despite all gaps, and despite all challenges. 61 years we are forging ahead. And most importantly, he painted the picture of Nigeria in the future in a very rosy colors.
Sorry to interject, Prof, but
the prospect of Nigeria's future is very bright.
Sorry to interject,
and
Prof.
very reassuring.
Let me ask you this. Let's even get down to some of the specifics that the president talked about. Let's start with the issue of security now, where he did say that that he has approved for the Nigerian police to engage or recruit 10,000 police officers every year over the next 6 years, and that the military has, of course, recruited 17,000 in recent times. He did talk about the military assets that the government has acquired, and that some of them have actually come in, and that in the coming days and weeks we'll begin to see the difference that these assets now will make. You look at those areas now, I mean, in terms of recruitment, the assets and all of that. What's your take on that? What do you think all of this will make a significant difference now in our fight against insecurity, especially the problem you have in the northeast? Now I'm talking about the Boko Haram insurgency, and of course in the northwest, the issue of banditry.
You see, the security issue is a very complex issue. Security is not defined from the point of view of sophistry of weapons or availability of military gadgets and equipments. I think security goes beyond that. In Nigeria, we are making a mistake that we cannot differentiate between state security and national security. Most of these arms and ammunition that we do import is a welcome idea. But it only goes further to suggest that we are building on state security. What we require in Nigeria today, 10,000 police recruitment every year. I think President made this statement in 2016, and he said for the next 6 years. And I remember also, in 2017, there was a crisis of conflict between the Nigerian police force and the Police Service Commission, who should be responsible for that recruitment. Up to now, this has been a clock in the wheel of this the progress of this employment. Number two, 17,000 military men, yes, is good because the morale of those who are in service are low, but fundamentally, the world is changing. We are moving away from state security to national security. National security is driven by citizens' security driven system. You understand? It is called CSDS, Citizen Security Driven System. All over the world, it is the security that is the citizens that is at the helm of security systems, not the state. The state will only come with their own paraphernalia and structures in order as institutions to support the citizens' quest for security. In Nigeria, the citizens are not carried along. You understand? There is a huge gap between the citizens and the state security apparatus. So my advice to the government is that they should be able to now change their own model of security operations. They should be able to involve, you understand, recruit, you understand, carry along the Nigerian citizens in the provision of security in this country.
All right,
and if they do
I'll come back to you, Prof. Let me just go over to
Mr.
AJADI, who is in Abuja. Mr. AJADI, for you, what would be your key takeaway from the president's speech?
Good afternoon. I think it was a very long list of issues and responses to those issues. Especially for me, the critical issues are things that go into the empowerment and the engagement of Nigerians. Women's development is a classic example of that. Another example of that is the investment in infrastructure that I talked about, which is apparent to many of us.
Yes.
Another example is the issue of investing in pharmaceutical capacity and to ensure that Nigeria is able to produce solutions for pandemics. I think another issue is the issue of employment and engaging of young people and giving them the capacity to play their role in the development of the country. I think it was a very nuanced and very varied speech. I would not judge it as my colleague has done. I would really want to see that the balance of talking about its achievements and looking at the opportunities for the country are critical. Let's bear in mind that we as Nigerians are very, very tough and very, very harsh judge of anything that happens in this country. We play a zero-sum game. We either are winning or we are losing. There's no in between. Nigeria is 61. Very few countries at 61 have achieved the relevance and the capacity that Nigeria has as the largest economy in Africa, as a country that has over 200 million citizens, and as a country that is evolving constantly. I mean, we can talk about examples that don't absolutely capture everything. We can talk about the recent Andela investment that came in. Yeah. 5 of the top digital investment in Africa has come to Nigeria. Culturally, Nigeria, either in film or music, is one of the standards in the world. The enabling capacity that is across the spectrum is quite something to build on. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying there are no challenges. Of course there are challenges. Is there any country that doesn't have challenge? But we look at things like the GNI index, and we know that Nigeria is, for example, better than the United States, 35.1 points compared to 41.4 points. We have seen that we are recovering from the pandemic-created economic situation. Last quarter, we had a 5% increase in GDP and 5% growth in GDP, yeah. Which is something that's what and as long as we are able to ensure that GDP growth is twice the rate of our population growth, then you'd have the economic expansion needed for this country to be able to respond to the inevitable challenges of having a complex and very diverse country try to emerge into a nation. So there are challenges, and I don't want to be the person that says there are no problems. But to make it look like we are on the edge of disaster, let's talk about the issue of insecurity, for example, which my colleague quite happily defined very well and identified the issues very well. The one thing is for certain, we can't resolve our problems with just conflict, as we are fighting on the war front. We have to create the capacity to dialogue with our people, to recognize the concerns of those we disagree with, to create a space for a non-violent solution. But you see, I can see this administration being drawn both ways. Anytime there's some kind of rapprochement with the combatants, it's called
there's a complaint.
With the, Yes, and anytime there's some kind of, let's take the bandits, for example. If the bandits were southern bandits and they were being bombed by the Nigerian Air Force, the world would not hear the last of it. You know, that they're not being arrested, that they're not going through policing action, but through military action, it would be completely unacceptable. Let's talk about kidnapping. Kidnapping is not exclusive to the northwest of Nigeria. There was a much celebrated kidnapper in Lagos, Evans, or whatever his name was. You wouldn't even know whether the man was a kidnapper or somebody that was being offended by human rights intervention. So the kinds of manipulative dialogue we have in relation to the challenges of this country is totally unacceptable. And I think that the president tries to play what every politician does, to speak to everybody at the same time. He cannot disdain the people that disagree with him. He tries to explain what he's doing and tries to explain the progress he thinks he's making. But I think we have to get better and move away from a politics of conflict.
I understand your point. Now, very quickly, something I also want to ask you, because I know you are into agriculture as well, and the president did talk about the issue of rising food prices, saying that it's as a result of artificial shortages, according to him, and middlemen interfering and middlemen interference. Would that be your take on that issue? Do you think the problem of rising food prices in the country today is just about, you know, artificial shortages and the interference by middlemen?
I think it's a bit more complex, but I think that is what you would expect him to say in those circumstances in a few-minute speech. But it's a bit more complex. The truth of it is that any opportunity like we have with the falling of the naira, everybody tries to exploit it. And people who have bought their goods before will increase the price because they say they're going to have to buy other things at the price of the dollar. What is happening that is interesting in Nigeria is that we are gradually, not fast enough, moving away from an import-dependent country to a country that is a bit more balanced of trade. We are seeing more agricultural exports. We are seeing more opportunities to purchase. If you go into the supermarket, you see a lot of Nigerian products. And I think that the more that we become focused on what we generate internally, the less what happens in the dollar is going to affect us.
But then you must admit that it's also a problem if people are not able to go to farm, if people are not able to farm. For instance, the northeast of the country, we know is one of the food baskets of this country, and for quite some time now, people have not been able to farm as such, you know, the way they should. And in other parts of the northern parts of the country, where the food of this country actually comes from, so that could also be partly responsible for the rising food prices.
There's no doubt about that. And nobody can dismiss the fact that anybody who goes into the rural areas in some of these places is taking their lives into their hands. So I'm not trying to dismiss these things. What I'm trying to say to you, however, is that the macro situation has to be that we focus on what we produce in this country. And so what the government has to do, the solution we need, is to make sure that the first priority of any defense intervention is to protect the farmers and the farmland. If you have a corps of armed people that protect farmlands, that work with farmers in the Northwest, especially the Northwest and the North Central, then you can actually protect food stuff. But you see, this debate about the price of food has been going on for a long time. Because genuinely...
All right, it appears we have lost Mr. AJADI there, but let's just take a short break here. And I still have Professor Sadiq Abba with us, so we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians have said in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, we're discussing Nigeria at 61, and what we've been trying to do over the past 20 minutes or so is to dissect the president's speech on Independence Day. That's October the 1st. 2021, and of course I have Professor Sadiq Abba, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, University of Abuja. I also have Mr. AJADI, of course, who is a political affairs analyst and of course a lawyer. He joins us from Abuja as well. Mr. AJADI, you were actually saying something before we lost you. Let me just let you conclude before I go over to Professor Abba.
I'm trying to say we are consumer of products that we import largely. And the challenge from that is the most structural thing that we have to address. Think about it. We moved from about 2 million metric tons of rice in 15, 16. And we're now at about 8 to 9 million in 2021, which is shown an increase in spite of the challenges that we face. That never I'm more interested in purchasing Thai rice, which is of dubious value to us compared to local rice. So those are examples we have to deal with. We have to restructure what we spend our money on.
All right. Let me go over to Professor Sadiq. Prof, going forward, what would you say you want to begin to see that could help us turn things around in this country, especially not just in the area of security, but even the economy itself, especially with the issue of food, because food is something that affects everybody. It affects especially the common man.
You see, first and foremost, in Nigeria, we over-politicize solutions. We over-bureaucratize solutions. We create long journeys to a shorter destinations. Me, as far as I'm concerned, what the government needs to do, they know it. Buhari knows exactly before he came to power what he should do. He knows. Most of our governors and politicians knew exactly, but politics should. They surround themselves to political expediencies rather than to national interest. As a political scientist, I believe what we should do, let me take certain examples, like in agriculture. There are two issues in agriculture. Number one, whether we like it or not, even the enemies of Nigeria knows that between 2015 to date, there is a quantum leap as far as productivity in agricultural products are concerned in Nigeria. Now the big question is this: where are the outputs, the result of those particular productions? Because the president says blame the middlemen. Are the middlemen ghosts in Nigeria? Are they not Nigerians? Are they not known? Are they living in disguise? They live in Nigeria. They are Nigerians. What about the regulatory agencies? What about the security agencies? What is the work of the security agencies and the regulatory agencies that cannot take them away? We have a perfect example in Rwanda where Paul Kagame was able to take care of the middlemen. Look, let me give a certain example. In Nigeria today, somebody will go to a farmer in the middle of the farming season and project that this your farm will give you about 300,000 after harvesting. Now take 600,000. I am buying the farm even before you harvest it. That's what has been happening all over Nigeria. And they hoard this farm produce. And the president is lamenting in Abuja in his National Day speech that middlemen are creating havoc. Can they be taken care of? We have enough. Our security agencies are very, very fantastic. They can take care of this. Let the president give them the go ahead. Declare a state of emergency on the middlemen so that at least a common man will have food on his table. So there is high productivity, high output of produce, yet there is scarcity in the market. How do you reconcile these two? So that's about agriculture. Let me give about, we have a problem with automobile in Nigeria. Innocent is in Nigeria. Innocent is in Nigeria. Why can't the government create a policy that from local government to federal, all motors, all cars should be purchased from Innocent? From the president himself, he should forget about all his Mercedes-Benz, his limousines. He should be able to patronize Innocent. In the next 10 years, we'll be exporting cars not only across West Africa, but we can even go to the Asian world. So we have solutions, but the politicians don't want to go that way. We have the way forward. We have the way out. So let's have the political will first. Then mobilize the citizens. With whatever you do, whatever policy or program you do. Hello?
Yes, go on. I can hear you.
Whatever policy or programs that is put in place by government, if the citizens are not carried along, you see, the world has changed, has transformed for the past 25 years. It is the citizens that runs nations. It is not government are only a mechanism, a platform through which citizens' desires and aspirations have been implemented and have been pursued. So Nigerian citizens are left behind. Government doesn't carry citizens along. All the anchor borrowers, all the 300 billion naira that Buhari put in 2016 to subsidize agriculture in Nigeria, so most of the money are still wasting in CBN through bureaucracy, and they are being given to wrong hands. Somebody who doesn't have even a farmland will be given hundreds of, tens of millions. While somebody with farms, with livestock, with fishery, with
but sometimes, Prof, sometimes, Prof, it's easy to make some of these allegations, not until you investigate them, because I know too that you know, these allegations have been made, but the truth is that people get money.
You say it's their allegations. What sort of allegation is this? Why is the money? Why can't we investigate? What happened to investigative journalism? Look, it's not allegations. It's what is happening on ground. Why can't we see all these things? See, look, the way forward are very clear and straightforward. But the Nigerian public service, the Nigerian officials, the politicians are not ready to pull Nigeria away from this national crisis. It's as simple as this. It doesn't require any magic or any science, rocket science, to pull this country through. We are blessed by nature, fantastic weather, fantastic rainy season, fantastic soils. We can do it. Prof. And agriculture is even more profitable.
Let me pause. Unfortunately, we haven't got enough time to discuss all of these issues, but let me just pause you there and quickly get ADEWALE AJADI now to give us, you know, his own parting shot on some of these issues that we've discussed. Especially, Mr. AJADI, I'd also want you to react, because you're very much into the agriculture sector as well, react to some of the issues that Prof raised, for instance, especially with the issue of the Anchor Borrowers Program.
Well, you know, the truth about it is that we should have process for investigating such things. We can't just by fiat fix it, because it's actually the very essence of ensuring there's participation. The challenge we have is that, one, you cannot succeed. My own view, my own thesis is that we cannot succeed if women are not empowered in this country. That sounds like an abstract issue, but the majority of the people who work in agriculture are women. If you upskill women, you upskill a family. So the one gap I see in what we did in agriculture is that we never really made this issue of women critical. It's like you're having a strong right hand, you don't have a weak left hand, but you can't clap with one hand. So let's get that clear, number one. That is critical. If this country is ever going to achieve the majesty and the greatness that we seek for it in any area, women must be partners, full partners in our public life. The second thing is this: the institutions we have usually let down the government. No matter what the government tries to do, it is the very Nigerians in this institution, in my experience, this is not abstract, that undermine. They are selfish, they are greedy, and that includes the civic society or NGOs. The truth be said, that corruption is deeply ingrained in nearly all our institutions and all our public life. So that is another critical point. And the solution that the presidency had for corruption has not quite worked.
What?
Because the judiciary, which should be a partner in this, is still the arbiter with a very weak capacity. And as a result, many of the things that they claim that they put into courts are taking forever to resolve. So we have a very corrupt country, simple, a fact. And then fundamentally, those two things, it is also very important that we prioritize the participation, as my colleague said, of the people. So when you look at it, all the conversations we have in this country about accountability always happens on the federal level. The governments are imperial and impervious to accountability. They do not make local governments work, so local governments don't really exist. The traditional system is really an informal part of governance, so it is not really structured and embedded. They get paid, but they're not really participating with accountability. So you can't have a government that only works on a national level.
That is true.
And every time on the state level, you don't have participation. And so all of these things, everybody focuses on the federal government and say, Buhari this, Buhari that. Well, it's okay. But that's what it's there for. But you should make sure that the state governors are accountable. Agric policy, agric work, only works when the states work on agriculture. Agriculture itself, if you look at the concurrent list, the state has the leadership position, has the land. When we start working on agriculture, most states do not have an agric policy or strategy. And if you go and look at any state in Nigeria, very few can show internally generated revenue from agriculture, even the bread baskets of the country in the North Central. Yet they are willing to focus on herdsmen and open grazing rather than making sure that their states work. Let's not lie to ourselves. They play politics with every single thing. They've turned ethnicity into a problem of this country rather than a strength of this country. And yet, we still focus on the federal government. The federal government can't fix everything. It's not our father. It's just one of our institutions.
And that is quite true. Unfortunately, we haven't got enough time. Quite an interesting discussion. Personally, I would want this to go on for as long as possible. Unfortunately, the time isn't there. Professor Sadiq Abba, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Abuja, that's Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration. We thank you very much for your time and for your contributions. Mr. ADEWALE AJADI, a lawyer and a political affairs analyst, thank you very much also for your contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on the program. Well, it's on that note we end the program this week. We thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.